Imagine working tirelessly day after day, only to find out that you've been underpaid for months or even years. You've put in the hours, followed every instruction, and kept the business running. Yet the money that should be in your pocket is quietly stolen. And what's worse? This isn't happening in secret. It's happening in broad daylight, across industries, in small businesses and massive corporations alike. At the same time, millions of workers in Australia live with the constant fear of losing their jobs. They're stuck in casual, contract or gig work with no security, no paid leave, and no guarantee of steady income. They're told to be grateful for any work at all. But behind the scenes, insecure work isn't just hurting individuals, it's reshaping the entire economy, shifting power from workers to businesses, and leaving people more vulnerable than ever before. This is the dark reality of work in Australia today. Wage theft and job insecurity aren't just minor inconveniences. They're widespread, systemic problems that have left millions of Australians struggling to survive. The question is, how did we get here? And more importantly, what can be done to fix it? Wage theft is the practice of deliberately underpaying workers or denying them their legal entitlements. It can happen in many forms, from failing to pay minimum wage to forcing employees to work unpaid overtime, withholding superannuation payments, or misclassifying workers to avoid legal obligations. Some employers even make workers pay back a portion of their wages in cash, an illegal and exploitative practice that traps people in financial hardship. The problem is massive. According to a report by Industry Super Australia, wage theft costs Australian workers an estimated $1,350 million per year. That's money that should be going to rent, groceries and bills. Instead, it's lining the pockets of dishonest business owners who break the law while facing little to no consequences. And this isn't just happening in small businesses or shady operations. Some of Australia's largest and most well-known companies have been caught underpaying workers. Coles, Woolworths, 7-Eleven and even major universities have all been exposed for wage theft in recent years. These are billion-dollar corporations that can afford to pay their employees properly, yet they've been systematically shortchanging workers for years. The most shocking part? Many of these businesses don't even try to hide it. Instead, they quietly self-report their underpayments when they're caught, calling it an error or a miscalculation. They issue apologies, promise to do better, and in most cases get away with just paying back what they stole, if the workers are lucky. But if an everyday worker were to steal money from their employer, they'd likely face criminal charges. The double standard is staggering. The hospitality and retail sectors are among the worst offenders. Young workers, international students and migrant workers are particularly vulnerable, as many don't fully understand their rights or fear speaking up. Restaurants and cafes are notorious for underpaying staff, failing to pay penalty rates, and even making employees work for free trials. Some businesses operate on a cashback scheme, where workers receive their wages on paper but are forced to return part of it to their employer under the table. The agricultural industry is another hotbed of exploitation. Seasonal farm workers, many of whom are on temporary visas, often work under grueling conditions for wages that barely cover their expenses. Investigations have found workers picking fruit for as little as $4 an hour, far below the legal minimum wage. These workers are essential to the supply chain, yet they are treated as disposable. Wage theft isn't just limited to low-wage jobs. Even professional industries have been caught engaging in it. Law firms, universities and corporate offices have all faced wage theft scandals. Academic staff on casual contracts often find themselves working unpaid hours, and young professionals in white-collar jobs are frequently expected to work overtime for no extra pay. One of the biggest issues with wage theft is enforcement. Even though Australia has laws designed to protect workers, these laws are rarely enforced effectively. Workers who want to recover stolen wages often face long legal battles, and many simply give up because the process is too difficult or expensive. Employers know this, and some take advantage of the system, banking on the fact that most workers won't take legal action. Some states, like Queensland, have criminalised wage theft, meaning that business owners caught stealing wages can face jail time. But in most of the country, wage theft is still treated as a civil matter rather than a crime. This means that even when companies are found guilty of underpaying workers, the worst they usually face is a fine, often much smaller than the profits they made from stealing wages in the first place. While wage theft is stealing billions from workers, job insecurity is making life even harder. The rise of casual employment, gig work and contract jobs has left millions of Australians without stable income, sick leave or job protections. Many workers are classified as casual, even though they work regular, ongoing hours. Others are hired on short-term contracts that keep them in a constant state of uncertainty. Casual employment now accounts for nearly a quarter of all jobs in Australia, with 2.3 million people working without job security. Meanwhile, over 1 million workers are classified as independent contractors, even though they have little control over their work. And for the 400,000 workers on fixed-term contracts, job security is just as elusive. This shift towards insecure work isn't an accident. It's a deliberate strategy by businesses to cut costs and avoid paying benefits. When workers are casual, businesses don't have to provide annual leave, sick leave, or redundancy pay. When workers are on rolling contracts, businesses can replace them without consequence. And when workers are misclassified as independent contractors, businesses can avoid paying superannuation or fair wages. The impacts of job insecurity are devastating. Many workers struggle to get loans, rent homes, or plan for the future because they never know if they'll have a steady income. The constant stress of job insecurity has also been linked to poor mental health, with studies showing that workers in unstable jobs are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and stress illnesses. Women, young workers, and migrants are disproportionately affected by job insecurity. Women are more likely to be in part-time or casual roles, meaning they have less financial stability. Young workers are often forced into gig work or short-term contracts, making it hard to build a career. Migrant workers, particularly those on temporary visas, are highly vulnerable to exploitation and job loss, as their ability to stay in the country is often tied to their employment. So what can be done to fix this? First, wage theft needs to be treated as a serious crime, with jail time for employers who deliberately underpay workers. Businesses that engage in wage theft should face harsher penalties, including bans from government contracts and public naming and shaming campaigns. Second, job security must be strengthened. Casual and gig workers should have more pathways to permanent employment. Workers who have been in the same job for a long period should have the right to convert to a permanent role. Employers should be held accountable for misclassifying workers as contractors when they are, in reality, employees. Third, workers need better protections and support. More funding should go towards the Fair Work Ombudsman to enforce wage laws and investigate businesses engaging in underpayment. Workers should have access to legal aid and resources to fight for their rights. Stronger unions and collective bargaining agreements can also help protect workers from exploitation. Most importantly, this issue needs to stay in the public eye. Wage theft and job insecurity thrive in silence, and businesses rely on workers being too afraid to speak up. But the more people who know their rights, the harder it becomes for employers to get away with exploitation. The future of work in Australia should be one where every worker is paid fairly and treated with respect. That future is possible, but only if we demand it.